Should Valorant make a movie or a show? Yes. I've been thinking about the success of Arcane and just how season 2 is coming up made me think about, can Valorant do it? Yes, they can. They've already shared their storytelling skills at an incredible measure with Arcane. The cinematics that Valorant has been releasing for the past couple of years shows how talented they are. You may look at it as like, I don't know about a show, maybe a movie, based on the perception of the game and how it will revolve around that. That's what I thought too, until I learned a little bit more about the lore. Now I'm not really convinced that it can be a movie because I didn't realize how much lore was actually in Valorant. So I'm going to be talking about why Valorant does deserve that show, and if it does go into a movie perspective, how it would try to revolve around the lore. Now I've played Valorant for a long time, and don't ask what my rank is, it's embarrassing. But pretty much I had no idea about any lore while I was playing Valorant until today, and I didn't want to go into this video not knowing a single ish about Valorant lore, so I wanted to just like get a quick skim, brush up on some stuff. I'm executing this as I go, so I'm just gonna do like stuff in sections. So first I'll talk about the characters and their voice actors. I think the voice actors are very talented. It always keeps me engaged when I'm playing in the game. It's always fun to just banter around with other players with the voice acting.
Good on ya! Good on ya! Good on ya! G'day! 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 Fade's mind games are no match for my secret weapon. Ibuprofen.
There's also a lot of diversity within these characters, which I think can be really helpful when it comes to how they will work together as a team. But I think most importantly, they are consistently adding new characters / agents within the game, and that can definitely cause a problem because of course in Arcane not every character from League of Legends was in that show, but they were still able to do their thing. However, I think it's very different because I really did not play nor did know anything about League of Legends when I started watching Arcane. With Valorant, I've been experiencing playing these agents for like a couple years now. I also got into the lore and realized how much effort it is for Riot to put these characters with one another. So many connections within these characters just so that they can have some kind of relationship, whether it's good or bad. And I don't know if that would be good for like a movie preference. I think that's better for like a show if they wanted to continue it like that, but Arcane does it where it's like we're gonna change some of the lore, and now Arcane now is the lore, and they said it themselves. Arcane lore is canon, and I've heard people say about League of Legends lore like it's all over the place, and that Arcane just like kind of solidified its own thing, but like that's actually the real thing now. And I think Valorant is able to do the exact same thing, especially since most of the stuff hasn't even been like fleshed out or actually explained, because some of the stuff that they've had since beta lore is still unknown. I just found out about Agent 8 today, and Valorant has provided subtle hints of that throughout their cinematic experiences. I feel like if they were holding back for this long, they have something else bigger to show up their sleeve, hopefully within that show or movie, to address what happened to Agent 8. And I don't know, but personally for me, I think it would be crazy for Valorant to do something like this, a project like this big, and not have every agent in it. And I know that is extremely a lot because there's like at least 20 agents in Valorant, so it's definitely a lot to handle, which is why I think that a show would be better in that sense. But if they didn't want to include the entire cast, I could definitely see why a movie would fit better, because it's a given that Valorant is going to put the OG agents into their project. But I think for the recent agents like Deadlock, Iso, and Clove, I'm pretty sure that like their viewership wouldn't drop, but it definitely would have an impact on the story because they've already animated them. They've already provided those characters with their own cinematic experiences. So yeah, just having them not be in the actual big picture, bigger project would be kind of crazy. But I just genuinely think the Valorant agents are pretty cool. Everyone's unique in their own way, and to be able to see that on the big project would be pretty cool. To have somebody missed out would feel like a missed opportunity. Next is the topic of like cinematography and animation, and if you just watch even a couple of these cinematic experiences they've put out over the years, like you can genuinely tell that they are fully capable of doing this. Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of time, but they could still provide a high quality product. Here are some of my favorite clips.
diva life.
I think this goes to show how well they're able to create the environments. The soundtracks are pretty good. Like, again, they've shown their worth in Arcane, and it looks really good here. Like, the lighting is really good, sound design's good. I don't think they have to worry that much considering how many talented people they have on deck. That's in the bag. I think you just have to focus on the story because you've had so many things in your lore that has not been fleshed out nor explained, and if you keep adding on characters, it's going to be even more difficult to keep up with relationships. But that's okay because there's so many different directions you can take, just like you did with Arcane. And with this story, with TV or movie, you have a really good chance in telling something very profound, just like how Arcane did, and now Arcane made it canon, just like how you can do it with Valorant. In this snapshot here, it talks about the Everett Lind Research Facility, which was in the map Fracture, and it talks about the organizations of both Alpha and Omega, the two different worlds working together, which is insane considering their ultimate goals was to unite the two worlds together. But the collider was destroyed by two snipers, and that's all they say. Two snipers? Do we know these snipers? What's going on? Now, after doing some research, a lot of people think it's Chamber that did this. Both Chamber Alpha and Omega were the ones that resulted in the explosion. But in terms of to why, we don't know. Now, possibly the biggest thing about this whole Valorant lore is the ending, and it literally says everything here should be taken with a grain of salt. It's a radiant war between Radiants and normal humans, and it was so bad that KO went back in time to stop it from happening. Now, that's something that, if this show or movie happens, I want to see the progression through all of that and see if it actually happens or not. Maybe it was destiny, maybe they can actually go ahead and stop the war from happening. And I don't know if they will really go into that route, but killing off characters would genuinely put a big twist on the storytelling for a Valorant movie slash show, because they weren't afraid to do it in Arcade, and I think that really set a standard for their storytelling. And they already kind of are alluding to killing off characters thanks to KO's experiences and the information he gave off about the Radiant War, and also from Valorant devs, as if you look at some player cards, you can see some of the items being left behind in the foreground, and that definitely says a lot about the storytelling and the risks they'll take, because if you're already eluding this in the game, then there's no reason not to do it in a movie or TV show unless you have a better direction. Ultimately, you have a lot of potential here. You got a really good animation team who's proven time and time over the years again and again that they can create high quality products. You've got a pretty interesting lore going on with these two worlds coexisting with one another, fighting with one another for their own reasons. It's not even like it's a here's a good one, here's a bad person. It's like they're fighting for their own causes. So that's why it makes it so interesting, the amount of directions it can take, because you already showed it through Arcane, and maybe the Phoenix from Alpha will probably like the Phoenix from Omega, something like that. I don't know. We can learn more about these characters and see how far that they'll go in order to protect their world, or maybe try to protect both. The characters are cool, the animation is cool, the lore has potential. If you really just execute this right, you might have a chance at another great story like Arcane. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about a potential Valorant show slash movie.
Good on ya! Good on ya! Good on ya! G'day! G'day! G'day!